Excited that you are here, and we have a great topic to discuss today, which is how to launch and take advantage of the knowledge that you have. Yes, you have it. Each and every one of us have great knowledge that someone else will pay for, but how do you package it? How do you create that course when you have no following or a very small list? So that's our topic today. So if you are wanting to know how to do this, then you're in the right place. As you're coming in, just give me a shout out. Where in the world are you today? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kim Gerst. I love helping others shorten their learning curves when it comes to digital and social media, basically so they can up-level their business, get it to the next level. And you are in episode 6 of the Marketing That Grows Your Business show. So I'm, like I say, super excited that you're here. I need your help today. Hopefully you'll lend me a hand because I have, hey, Paul from Laurel, Maryland. So excited to see you and so appreciative that you're here every week. Really appreciate that. And we have Sharon, who's looking forward to learning about online courses. Yes, this is, I tell you, I got a great story about online courses. You guys are hanging there with me. So like most of the shows, we do giveaways, but today I'm going to do the giveaways again, but I want to do something slightly different because I need your help to do a social experiment, if you will. So there's been a lot of talk about watch parties. I don't know if you guys are familiar with watch parties, but I'm going to do something very specific. Today, I want to ask if you will create a watch party for today's show, share it wherever you want to share it in, whether it's your own Facebook group or whether it is your profile or your page, and then come back and drop in watch party. When you do that, I'm going to pick a winner of one person that I'm going to give $100 to. I'm just going to send you a PayPal you $100. We have Prashant. I hope I said that correctly. Prashant from India. Welcome, welcome. So the purpose of this is to see if watch parties really do work. And not only am I going to do the watch party, and like I say, I'd love your help in finding out if this is going to work or not, but I will share my findings with you. If I find out that this actually works and it's a great way to get exposure, hey, Lisa from New Jersey, then I will definitely let you guys know. Let me see real quick. Giveaways. Let's talk about, housekeeping things real quick. If you get value from this, feel free to pass it on. I would love that. If you find that you pick up something like your aha moments, please drop those in because they're super helpful for us to figure out what is really value-based to you. And when you do those aha moments, those are the way that we choose the winners as well for the prizes that we give away on every one of our live shows. So we do a couple of prizes every show. One is this little amazing little thing. I'm getting so much positive feedback from this. Hopefully you guys can see it. It's a replica of my glasses. No, it's not. It's basically it's something you put over your webcam. There's so much talk about how your webcams are a security risk. So we ordered these. They're super awesome. I'm using it on all of my laptops right now, and everybody's loving them. Plus, they're cute. So we're going to give away one of these. We also are giving away, who doesn't like a ring light? Oh my gosh, these things are so amazing. I am constantly using these when I go to events in particular because they're a great light source. But you can use them in, in like darker spots, or even if you want to use them for your live streams. They go over real well. Hey, Eugenia from Portsmouth, Virginia, welcome. So where's the weather? What's the weather like where you guys are? It's supposed to be hot today. It's supposed to be in the 80s, but it was a little nippy here this morning. Hey, Craig from New York. New York is in the house. All right. And then one other thing that we do give away is we give away 1 month of free access to our sponsor, the tool promo.com. So 3 lucky winners are going to receive a month of promo.com for free, which is awesome. All right. So we had a good morning, Darren. Good morning. Good morning. Super excited that you're here. This morning we had someone scheduled to be our special guest, Lindsay Padilla. Now, Lindsay is incredible, but for some reason, we have not been able to get her. We haven't been able to get her in. I don't know if she's having tech issues or if something has happened or if she forgot to change her clock from yesterday. So you guys are going to be stuck with me today. The good news is, like, I can talk this stuff all day long because I'm super passionate about it. Lindsay is amazing, and I was so hoping she would be on with us today because she brings a different perspective. She's a doctor, she's a professor. She has that like educational backdrop, I think, to give some perspective to this conversation. But since she's not with us, we're just going to proceed without her. If she shows up, then we're just going to bring her on in and see what happens. But I want to share a quick story with you as it relates to the power of knowledge. So my very first online business was web design way back in the day. And that was like back in like when my first business I started in 1991. Yeah, that's like 28 years ago. So just a little bit ago, a minute or two. And I was creating a lot of websites and evolved to really high-end websites. And that was when flash sites were so popular. Obviously, nobody has flash sites anymore. At least I don't think they do. But back then, a flash website could command, $25,000, $35,000, $50,000, and nobody blinked an eye at spending that kind of money. One, because it was a new medium, the whole web was a new medium, and there wasn't a lot of people who could really deliver the work. So the demand was there, and the pricing, of course, was a lot higher than getting a web designed today. So I had these 2 clients. Actually, they were 1 client, 2 gentlemen, and they had hired me to create this amazing website for them, which I did. And then they got their site ready, and they were like, "Okay, now what? I mean, how do we market it? We've got this site, but what's next?" So I've invited them down. They were in North Dakota, I think it was South Dakota, one of the Dakotas, and they came. My office was in my dining room at the time. My husband said, "Well, all right, here we are early in the internet space, and these 2 strange men are coming to our house. Like, that's weird. So I'm staying home from work today." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll feel safer if you do. No worries." So they come, they spend the day in my dining room, and we get to the end of the day after brainstorming how they're going to market their new website all day long. And essentially what happened was we got to the end of the day. They were like, "Okay, what do we owe you?" And I threw out what I thought was a big old number. I was like, "Time? It's not a service. So like, what do I charge for that?" So I thought, okay, $100 an hour. And they'd been there like 9 hours. And so they didn't even hesitate. They wrote me a check for $900 on the spot. And my husband was standing in the doorway, and he's like, I saw the light bulb go off in that moment. That was the first time that I realized that my knowledge was more valuable than the services I was offering, or at least it had value. I would say it more like that, because at that point in time, I didn't really, I had obviously had a service, I charged them more for it, but that was over an extended period of time where I had spent like a block of time, 9 hours, and which was a lot of time, for a brain picking session. But still, I was able to assign a value to that was pretty amazing. And so that's one of those things that when I did that in that moment, it gave me my own aha moment was that, oh my gosh, I know something that people are willing to pay for. So the moral to that story is, guess what, guys? So do you. You know something that someone else is willing to pay for. So another quick story, and then I promise we'll start digging into how you go about doing this. I had a gal come to one of my masterminds a few years back, and she is a mother of 12 natural born children. It's not like a mixed, married someone who had 4 children and she had 6, or, some other, the math doesn't add up to that on that one, but you know what I mean? It wasn't a mix of, his kids, her kids, that kind of thing. No, she's married to a pastor, and they had 12 children. And I'll never forget, she was sitting across from the table from me, and she, big old tears rolled down her cheeks, and she said, "But I'm just a mom. No one will want to know what I know." I'm like, girl, yes, they will. You have managed to feed a family of 14, essentially, on a budget of what? Like, that's one thing. I listed off like all these things, like immediately, that she could monetize. And that's the thing I think sometimes that we don't understand, is that we have incredible knowledge, each and every one of us, that we don't sometimes value ourselves. So if you don't value what you know and your time and your talents, and you don't start understanding that that has a value, then neither will anyone else. So you have to start with that first. You have to understand that you do have value, and that people are going to be interested in what you have to say, what you have to share, and they will be willing to pay for it. So wanted to set the stage for the conversation around this. Now, as I am like talking about this concept of, creating your course, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in, because I want to make sure that you get your questions answered throughout the course of today's. Yes, Marco is saying knowledge is the gold on digital era. So real quick, I'm going to share some stats with you, and I want your opinions on this. So the very first one is basically, sometimes it's just, what do you know? Do you know these things? Since the year 2000, the growth of e-learning, and we're just going to pop this up real quick, the growth of e-learning has been what percentage? I'm just curious if you know, like, was it 0% that it's been growing, or 25%, 500%, 900%? What do you think, based on what you think you know? And there's no right or wrong answer here. Well, there is a right answer, but it's always great to, like, am I right? So pop in what you think. Is it A, B, C, or D? 900%, 500%, 25%, 0%. And because I'm just really curious what you guys think about the numbers. And hopefully we'll start getting some responses in here. I want to know what you guys think. The fascinating thing is that this number is growing very exponentially. So I'm going to give you the answer. It's 900%. So e-learning has grown 900% in like no time. It's just a fascinating dynamic. So next stat for you is the global e-learning market. Yeah, global e-learning market is 33.5 billion will be 33.5 billion by 2021. Do you think that's true or false? Fascinating dynamics, honestly, as it relates to this whole space. Sometimes I think people think that there's no growth here, or that there's not an opportunity for them because they're a small fry, or they view themselves as a small fry. And I'm just here to say that is not true. So another quick story, Eugenia is saying, wow, right? So my friend Russell Brunson, you guys may have heard that name before, but I will never forget this story. He talked about when he first started selling knowledge on the internet. So Cassandra's saying it's true. Yes, it is true. So the global e-learning market is going to be 33.5 billion by next year. That's a lot of moolah, guys. And there is a share of that for you. So going back to the Russell Brunson story, he talked about when he first got started in the whole, sharing knowledge, that kind of thing. And he sold a ton, like 7 figures of something that is kind of weird. He basically put together an ebook around how to build a potato gun. Really? What could you put together that would be similar, right? Or, and then some people will say that they're like, all right, well, I don't know if somebody else hasn't done that too. Well, sure. There's nothing new under the sun. Somebody else has probably taken the potato gun recipe of success and tried to do it too. And I bet you they probably sold some. Maybe they weren't first to market, but that doesn't mean that they haven't been able to sell the potato gun concept. So one other stat for you is, what % of internet users prefer online courses based on their lifestyle and habits and schedules even? And I would bet you that you fall into this too. You'll probably understand this in the context of how you consume courses online. But what do you think the percentages is? Is it 25%? Is it 35%? Is it 60% or 90%? And I do find this a fascinating dynamic, because these are our buyers, guys. These are people who are focused in on consuming content based on the way that they can consume content, based on lifestyle, schedules, etc. So Lisa's saying, oh my gosh, I saw that potato gun book. Yes. I mean, and he made I think 7 figures with that. That was stunning. So the point of it is, if Russell can sell, when he first started, an ebook that talks about the concept of putting together a potato gun, yeah, we all got something, guys. We all got something. So the answer is C. You were correct. The answer is C. It's 60%. So 60% of internet users, guys, 60% of internet users prefer online courses. That's a lot of buyers, right? And this is an even more interesting stat. The self-paced online marketing, the learning market, if you will, in the US is estimated to be worth $15.86 billion in 2020. Now, that's just a US estimate. That's not a global estimate. But again, who wouldn't want a slice of that? So this is, like I say, in a very exciting time. I do believe that the whole online learning environment is shifting slightly. And this might be an opportunity for you. So what I mean by that is, I think a lot of people have bought courses over the years. And I would raise my hand, and I want to know if you raise your hand if what I say resembles you. We've bought things on the spur of the moment, thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be the answer to that problem. And then we don't make the time to dig in and implement. How many of you guys feel like that is you? You've bought stuff, you've bought courses, you've bought knowledge, and then you don't go through the content, and worse yet, you don't implement. There's no judgment here, guys, because we've all done it. So, hey, Jean. So again, the shift is, this is kind of what I'm thinking the shift is. I think there's a big need for us to come alongside our students and work with them. So a more of a definitely course environment, but more of a hands-on environment too. And I think that they would pay more for that. I think the times of just going through a course and consuming content, it's not that it's not still there, but I feel like there's like a little shift coming that I just wanted to kind of forecast, because I believe that there's a done with you model that could be very lucrative for people who step into that space. Okay, so let's talk about one, how do you come up with your, and I'm just going to go to my questions that I had laid out for Lindsay this morning, and I'm just going to go through them because I felt like, and again, ask your questions because you can pick my brain. When, another story for you, because I think this is impactful too. When, I guess it's been about, wow, my mom's been gone for about 3 years. I'm just trying to backtrack my timelines here. And she, so I guess it's been roughly 6 years ago when we found out my mom had terminal brain cancer, and they didn't give her a lot of time initially. And so I was very distracted, obviously, by that. And I pulled back from the business, trying to make sure that I could spend time and support her and be there as much as I possibly could. And if it had not been for my courses and the knowledge that I had already prepackaged, then my business probably would have gone down the drain, because I would not have had the time to sell my time. So if you are in a business model where your business is totally reliant on you and your time, then please listen when I say that knowledge packaged and sold can be scaled, whereas your time is hard to scale. So that's why I'm such a huge fan of packaging our knowledge into courses and selling them, selling that knowledge. One, because I saw the personal impact for me, and I'm just so thankful that I had done the work. I had courses that I basically could use to sustain my business while I was going through a very difficult time and couldn't focus on my business. Now, that's not going to be the case, hopefully, for all of you, but you never know what life's going to throw at you, right? You never know what life is going to how things are going to evolve, whether it is, just losing clients and having the ability to not be fearful of losing a client because you have other things that you can sell, and you're not hustling to get the next client, or else you can't, put food on the table the next month. That's why knowledge is so powerful. And one of the reasons that, like I say, I'm so passionate about it. Okay, so getting on with it. Where do you start? Where do you start? I think that's always one of the biggest questions that I get when I'm trying to figure this out and help people define what they're going to package up and sell. And one of the things that I think is very impactful when it comes to that process is, what question do you get asked most frequently? And or you can also listen, like, what are people requesting? What are their struggles? What are their pain points? Can you fix that? Can you provide a transformation for that struggle? And it doesn't have to be big. So lots of times people are like, oh my gosh, like, I can't put together like a course that's got 50 modules in it. No, don't start there. Start with something very small that you can potentially sell for a small amount of money even. There's what I call mini courses that are, in my in my opinion, let's put it that way. That other word was not coming out. But mini courses are a great place to start because they get your feet wet without a lot of time and energy, and potentially leveraging the fact that leveraging your knowledge, but then also testing that knowledge base to see if it's actually what people are interested in and what they want. So super excited that there's so much opportunity, and it doesn't have to be massive. I really want you guys to wrap your heads around the fact that it doesn't have to be huge in order to generate revenue and sizable revenue. So there's a gal, her name is Allie. What is Allie's last name? It's not coming to me right offhand, but Allie basically teaches how to create small courses, $27 courses, right? Again, that model is sustainable. You can do that, but you have to realize that that nugget that you're sharing, that transformation that you're trying to teach, has to be small. So at least if that's the model that you want to go after, if you want to, again, tackle this. So some tips about framing course creation process. Oh, thanks, Marco. So that was one of the questions I was also going to ask Lindsay. And my understanding is she's late, but she's coming, guys. So hang in there. I just got a text. It looks like she's on her way. So I'm filling in for her as we go. All right, so don't let the course, the concept of a course and the enormity of it get you down is the moral to what I just shared with you. Now, next up, and this is probably one of the biggest things that I've struggled with, is what do we name it? How many of you guys have ever thought of doing a course and then you're like, what do you name it? Oh, and there she is. Hey, Lindsay. So let me do a quick introduction now that Lindsay is here. I'm so excited that she's here. So Lindsay is, let me pull this over here. I just get it in front of me. So I have known Lindsay for several years. I actually hired her a few years back when I was doing my bot course, and she helped me in so many ways. One, put some structure to the course. The best value, I mean, there's so many ways, but one of the things that I really learned from her was how you go back once the course is out into the world and see where your holes are. You know, listen to what people are saying, and then going back in and fixing those things. So we'll talk about that as we go. But let me introduce you to her. This is Dr. That's impressive, right? Dr. Lindsay Padilla. She is an ex-professor turned entrepreneur. She is behind the On-Course Social course. Well, actually, it's a prompt calendar tool, which we're going to talk about too. And Course Power, an online coaching program that helps influential experts create six-figure income streams for their businesses through courses and membership. So she's totally got my jam down. I mean, she's all in there. She's got so many amazing things. She has a ton of frameworks, and they're born out of her tenure when she was teaching adults in the online or in the community college space. And she's done a ton of deep diving into the online space around education. And so it's just a perfect marriage when it comes to taking what she learned, her traditional learning, and then marrying it to the online space. So I don't know if you knew this, Lindsay, and many others probably don't know this, but my master's degree is in distance education. And I've never earned 1 red cent with it, except for how I leverage it in the online space. So welcome, everybody. Give Lindsay a warm hand.
Yay. How am I okay? So the wrong camera is showing, which throws me off because I have this super nice little setup, and this is my iMac camera that's showing, which is not ideal. But it looks okay. Is there a delay?
Beautiful.
It looks beautiful. Okay. Okay. So hi everybody. Thanks for having me.
So I have been filling in for you. So it's been a little, so basically what we did, we talked about how do you start? You know, sometimes I think, you know, setting the stage for we all got something that somebody else needs to know and we'll pay for. We were just getting to talking about naming the course and what a holdup that can be sometimes.
Yeah. Yes.
So you want to what's your best strategy for coming up with a name for your course? Because that's usually the process. Deciding what you're going to teach and then naming it.
Yeah, for sure. And like naming is something that I think it's definitely important. I also, the way I teach kind of course creation and to be as nimble as possible in the early stages and days of your course. And by days, I mean, like a while, like the first run of your course. So I teach a process that is built off of the beta framework. It actually spells out beta, but that idea that could change and that even, you know, the name is something that could change. So in the early days of the course that I made on betas I think it was called something like the beta loop process or something like that. And then it became Build a Better Beta because the name, it was just like so good, right? And so you could try to nail it the first time, but sometimes actually teaching it once or maybe twice, then it names itself just by what's happening in the course sometimes. But it is important to have a name when you're going to launch, even if it is just like a small group of people. And I think that there are a couple ways to name a course, and one of them would be something that has the results built in, right? And so those tend to be the best, just because a person who hears Build a Better Beta, like, oh, I would like to build a course. I know you have to start with a beta. Right? It makes sense. So the outcome is tied in. And then you can get into things like, you know, descriptions, Because the more abstract it is, the harder it is for somebody right away to say, I need that. And that's why the results-based one is really good. A lot of them are time-based, like build the best course ever in 90 days. And that really creates, again, a very result-based, but also time-based. So 90-day year is a really popular or course that was really popular. And it's like, yeah, you take what you would do in a year and you do it in 90 days. So those are some examples off the top of my head. I'm trying to think if I think of anything else. But if it's something really abstract and cutesy, it could work with a good tagline. But when it stands by itself, someone might not know what it is. And that's just so important in the online space, is like, what is that? Oh, cool. Like that's how, it's already a way to pull people in.
Well, that is something I've struggled with forever, but then I just finally got to where, let's just tell people what it is. Like, it's like groups that grow your business, or like, marketing that grows your, whatever it is, just tell people what it is. Don't be super cutesy with it. So let's talk about this concept of beta, because I think that a lot of times people are like, I got to have all my ducks in a row. Like everything has to be perfect out the gate. And I know you don't teach that. So let's talk about this concept of beta.
Yeah. So the beta process, it's funny that it took me so long to get there, because it was so obvious, because it's what happened in my teaching career, which, is the idea that you actually don't create any of the content ahead of time. And in a teaching environment, it's somewhat similar. Like I would borrow people's syllabi, and I would, like download some, lessons, maybe some ideas for lessons. It's not as much lesson planning in the college sphere as it is in like lower education. But either way, but then when the day you got there, it's like it all threw out the window. Like all the prep, it's like you facing real human beings. And so that's like where the learning actually happened. It didn't mean that the prep wasn't important. It's just, it was really happening when I was face to face with my students, my people. And so we came up with this process where instead of having anyone record anything, any videos, making any worksheets, they instead enrolled students into a live teaching of a course. And that tends to take away most objections that people have when it comes to course creation. So I don't have time. I don't know how to make videos. I'm not really good with tech. And when you boil it down to getting on camera and teaching your people, and then obviously having a process for that, because it's not, it's not entirely winging it. I do want to say that I'm not telling people to just make stuff up, but they hold live workshops with their people weekly, and then that becomes a module later. And so then when you strip all of that away, which is what most people are freaking out about when it comes to courses, like picking the learning management system. Like when I teach this, it literally costs $15. I want you to get Zoom Pro, and that's it. And you have to have a Facebook group. You have to have Google Docs. And those are the three things that you absolutely have to have. And you probably need a way to take payment. And that also it's not as messy as you think, but there's actually a platform, a learning management system that is free for the first 50 users for all their premium things. And so that's typically what we suggest to our people. So you're literally spending $15. Now it's time to go launch. And now different excuses come up, and now it's scarier in another way, because that's really the part that scares us. Like that's why we're spending all this time searching which platform is the best. When in reality, you need to ask people if they want something, and then they're going to tell you if they want it or not. And that's like the real scary part. And but that's the thing, is then I can say you can launch in like 7 days. Like you could pretty much launch in 7 days. We'll like map out the syllabus, is what I call it, like what you're going to teach and when, and set up being able to take payment and go launch. Right. And so
I love
then it's just a lot of going from that and rewatching it back. And I do teach the process, like you were mentioning, finding the holes, seeing where people were getting stuck, paying attention to, what came up in the Facebook group, that kind of thing. And then you make your videos, then you make your worksheets, instead of trying to do it ahead of time without real live learners for feedback.
I love it because I said before you arrived that I felt like there was a whole shift in the e-learning space or online
Mm,
space. Maybe that's a better way of saying it, where we need to be more hands-on with our students.
yep,
We need
yep,
to done with you is what I call it, instead of do it
yep,
yourself kind of thing,
yep.
which is a lot of coursework is more of a do it yourself kind of model. But I feel like there's a whole done with you thing. The
I
best part
love
of the
that
way
you're thinking
that my estimation of what Lindsay is sharing with us is that we don't have to have it all figured out.
no.
Nor do
Yeah.
we have to have it done before we can monetize it. Hello.
Yes. So
Right?
important. Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the questions that we got right before you jumped on, and you touched on it, but I thought that it would be super great to really dig into a little bit more, is how do you put that framework together, like for a course? How do you decide what your syllabus, using
Yeah.
a
What's in
fancier
it?
term, would look
Great
like?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you put it together, the framework?
Yeah. So I think I know we kind of brushed over the course topic. That is really important, the course topic, because you're trying to solve a problem for a student. Like your course solves a problem. Bottom line, that's the only reason why someone's buying it. And even like my sociology 101 course that I taught like in college, like yeah, I had this deep purpose of like making them, better people and understand their world and all these things. But like in reality, the problem I was solving was they were getting 3 units of like a very specific thing that they had to check off so they could get a degree at the end. That's really what I was solving, right? Now, of course, I don't have to sell sociology to a student, the time of day and how often it met probably sold it. But so then take that and put it into an environment where there's lots of people selling the same topic. There's a lot of noise out there, right? There's a lot of choices. There's distractions. They could buy something else instead. I mean, there's so many reasons, right? So your course name, obviously, but the topic of like, what is this person going to do? Like, what will I be at the end of this? I think that's like the best way to kind of think about it. And the course has to solve a problem of theirs. And I think we get in our heads as educators and experts and influencers and whatever. We get in our heads and we're like, oh, I would be so good at teaching this subject. I'm going to teach it. And then someone's like, yeah, but like, I don't see how this is going to help me. And so that's where it gets dangerous, because then you don't have income if no one's going to buy it because they don't see why they will be helped by it. And so making sure that your product solves a problem. So then when you go to construct your syllabus, the most important pieces of the syllabus are the student learning outcomes, which you would say in a college atmosphere. But in Build a Better Beta, we call them storybook endings. And this is the idea of like, if I could have, right, the storybook ending from purchasing this product, what does it look like, right? And so it is framed after student learning outcomes. So for those of you who come from education, which a lot of entrepreneurs do, it's the idea of like what the student will be able to do by the end of the course. And that's that very action based thing, right? Not like what they will know. It's like, I will be able to do this thing. So those storybook endings, when you write them out, that you can actually look at those and kind of say, oh yeah, here's where the benefits are of the program, because they can go deeper. And so I teach them how to write their storybook endings, but then we also go into how do you turn them to benefit statements, which is another thing we use in marketing, right? Like, how does this benefit me? Yeah, I can get, it has this feature, it has 7 modules, it's 8 weeks long, whatever. But like, how does it benefit me, right? And so we get into that kind of stuff. So the construction of it in the early days of a beta is less about like figuring out a learning management software, and it's more about thinking about the student. Like, what result will they get by hanging out with you for 8 weeks? And what will they go through? And so what I have my students do is every week is typically a module, unless there might be reasons not to do it like that. But basically every week becomes a module. And so we map out what that week could be. And I do have people start to break down like the lessons of each one, but they're not like getting into it. They're not writing anything down. And I actually teach my students to plan like many teachers plan, which is Many of them, I had, multiple preps, which means you have multiple classes that you have to teach and organize for. And so you're lesson planning, an hour or two a week for every lecture that you have. And so I give them the old rule of thumb for education, which is for every hour of lecture, you probably need about 2 hours of prep, maybe 3 if it's something you've never ever taught before. And so if you're going to teach a 90-minute workshop, you probably have about 3 or 4 hours of sitting there and mapping out what am I going to teach them. And I teach them how to lesson plan as well in workshops. So you are supported in taking care of your students. It's not show up and just be ask me anything about this, right? It's teaching. But I even encourage them not to use slides unless they have to, because it's just anything that is extra time that you're spending on something, is worse for you as an entrepreneur, right? We have such limited time, money, resources, focus, energy. And so keep that as minimum as possible, but give an amazing experience to these folks. So that syllabus construction is the basic of, if you remember a college syllabus, the purpose of the course, what I'm going to get out of this course, the schedule, right? Break it down like that. And this actually becomes our sales page. So I also don't teach them to go make a sales page. Again, down the rabbit hole of time, energy, money, resources that you can lose. And so, we send a sales page that is the syllabus. And what's cool about that is someone's knows that they're getting in on the ground floor of something really cool, which that beta energy can be very positive. I actually think I also reframe that for people. It's not this I don't know what I'm doing, this is the worst. It's no, you're getting my attention better than any other version of this course will, because I care about you getting a result so bad. It's access to me. And so people are oh, that, it isn't Lindsay's just making, some videos and having me go through them. It's she's teaching it live. So people see the value in that. And it becomes not a minimum viable product, but a minimum awesome course. That's what I call it, because it's really an awesome experience that can't be recreated. Once the beta is done, there's never going to be a beta again. It's done. So I think when you lean into that, it's a lot easier to sell as well. So yeah, so the syllabus becomes the sales page too.
And, as I was sharing before you came on too, I think sometimes we get wrapped up in it has to be massive. Just pick one small thing and do even a mini course out the gate that's beta driven, right? Where you're just solving one core thing just to get your feet wet, if nothing else, so that you're not, because you don't know what this is going to look like. I think a lot of times people are fearful that they'll sink a lot of time and energy into it. And what if it doesn't work, right? Yep. So testing it on something small, and then, letting people have direct access to you. You're creating the content for the course as you go, essentially, which is super cool. So you talked a little bit about what you have to have, or what you recommend, sorry, that people have. Very limited stuff. You don't have to have the fancy stuff. I mean, even if you're going to leverage Zoom, or, you can even go live inside of a Facebook group, essentially, too.
That's what I teach people. Yeah, and that's why I have them pay the $15. Before, that used to be more. And I said, but now it's a part of Zoom's feature. But so that's really where you collect people. That becomes your classroom, is the Facebook group. Facebook terms of conditions, you cannot sell access to a Facebook group. So it's important that you do have to, and usually that's the payment and the syllabi, that can live outside of the Facebook group somewhere. So when they check out, that's what they're getting. But then the community happens in the Facebook group. And the teaching happens on Zoom that is streamed into Facebook. So it still is a classroom. So it still fits Facebook's terms of service. But yeah, you can then have it in the group. So you can have people live, and then you can pull the video down. That means now you don't have to remember to hit record even, because if you're streaming, it's there. It's best practice to hit record, as Kim knows, as someone who live streams regularly. Happens. But you want that video, because that's what I also teach, is the actual assessing part after, where you actually review how you taught, what came up in the course, and you actually re-outline what your videos would be when you go to record them.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So most of, I think, well, I won't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of people want to know how you do this when you have no list. So who's going to buy this? In other words, if I have no list, and I don't have a large following already. How in the world do I find buyers for my beta course? What is this going to look
Yeah,
like, Lindsay?
I think this is another thing, like, I guess, myth that, or mistake, is that people wait a long time for some magical number, right? And there isn't one. You can sell a course to 20 people and have 10 people buy. You can sell a course to 2,000 people and have 10 people buy. So it actually, the number doesn't matter. Okay. So that's the first part of it. So yeah, is it helpful to have people on an email list? Is it helpful to maybe have your own group that you've curated? Is it helpful to have a business page and an Instagram account? Yeah, all of that is helpful, but only in so much as you're active on it, you have viewers, and people know that you teach something. Otherwise, everyone has to start at some point. And so I think by taking away this idea that I need a certain amount, or I need to have a list for this to happen, or I need to have this to happen, or a Facebook group, it's just not true. But you do need to have a presence online. So I don't think my mom could probably sell a course right now. Because I know who she follows and I know how she shows up in that space, right? She's really excited about my niece, my sister's daughter. She's not teaching anybody anything online right now. That doesn't mean that she couldn't start today. So if you're in the position of my mom, which I doubt you are, if you're following someone like Kim, you're paying attention to creating something, and maybe you don't feel like you have enough people, and maybe you're worried about who's going to hand you their credit card. But at the end of the day, there's probably some people in your space right now who follow you that might want the things, their problem solved by a course. Okay. And I think when you assess where you're at, part of myself, as having coached nearly 400 people through this process, a lot of our own mind gets in the way, and it's less about how many followers we have. We pretend that it's that, and that doesn't make us feel good because it's never as many as we could have, right? But that is what stops us from launching. And so I try to remove that as much as possible and say, what if you put something out there and started talking about it, even if it's only for a week, and even if it's, make a couple posts on your private page to just start conversations with people. If no one is interested, you're still in a good spot, because now you have data. That's what we say in my course. And it's you have information now that maybe it's not the right topic. Maybe you're setting up the messaging in a way that doesn't make sense. And so for me, I try to get people in Build a Better Beta to come in and set a launch date. And yeah, they don't have to launch in 7 days, though we have many people that do. But many people launch at least within the first month. And everyone's trying to protect themselves from feeling embarrassed by not getting any people. And so we really try to make it be yeah, but if you put it out there and you go through that process, now we have something to work on. I can coach you on some things like marketing and messaging, right? And your audience. And then we can say, you could use something like On-Course Social to really prep yourself and start showing up as somebody who's an authority around your topic, because usually that's what people aren't doing. Even without a list, you have people who have eyeballs on your accounts. They might not be engaging that often, but they're there. And if you started to show up regularly, you'd start to actually be able to engage with them. And so I think it's wrong when people are I don't have any followers. It's well, how big is your friends list? Because it's probably pretty decent size. That doesn't mean they're all paying attention to you and that you're showing up with them in your algorithm, but they're there, they're around you. And I think it's thinking about, how do you show up consistently on social media? What does that look like for you? And I don't even mean you have to post 3 times every day on 4 different platforms. I just mean even maybe 3 times a week, something consistently, and picking that pillar platform and going all in on it. That is going to take you further than thinking of oh my gosh, I have to have this freebie, and I have to have this landing page done, and I need to pick my learning management system, and it has to be set up to my email. It's yeah, that would all be great, But it also would be great to have like 5 people pay you $500 and then you teach them, and then you can start to like actually get some traction. And I think that's where people start to get stuck, is they think they need a list. So then they're now making a learning, like lead magnet, excuse me. And then now they're off on something else, right? And then and that takes time. And then to grow the list takes time. So this is why people don't launch. Like, this is exactly why people don't launch their courses or products, is they get wrapped up in this like very distinct process that used to work more than it maybe does now. It's not that a lead magnet doesn't work, it works. It's just, is that really something you should be focusing your energy on if you want to teach in a group setting? And that's also, I think it's important that you want to show up in this way. And that's like kind of who I speak to as well. Like, you want to maybe transition from one-on-one clients. And so if you keep putting these things that you think you have to do in place before you launch, you won't launch. So the size of the list, the size of the audience, it doesn't matter as much as you think. And there's no magic number, because it's all about the conversion rates and how people are excited about it. And that's what's cool about the beta process, because you can give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world, because it probably just needs a couple tweaks. And we will dissect the posts you made, and like maybe some of the conversations you had with people, and hear their objections, and look at the syllabus and see how you positioned it. Like, all those things matter. Doesn't mean you can't ever teach that course, but thank God you didn't spend all this money, time, energy, and focus on it, because now the real marketing happens. And that's the hard part.
It is the hard part. And I know, when you were talking about 2 core things I wanted to key in on, you talked about the conversations. We have to talk with people. We can't just here's my thing and buy it. Like, right? Yeah.
And then you go be sad, like no one bought it, right? And that sucks, because that yes.
Yes. And then there's also the expectation factor. I really want to talk about that real quick, because, when you start talking to people, or you're feeling like, hey, I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to, have this class on whatever, whatever it is. Like Lindsay said, if you've got 5 people that says yes, go all in on those 5 people, because what's going to happen is they're going to rave about their experience. They're going to tell other people about you. Through that experience that they have, they're going to bring more people your way. When the real marketing begins for your course, then you're going to be in a better position to leverage what you've done, what you've created, because you've been working with these people. They have given you invaluable feedback. You're going to learn more from them than they learn from you, potentially, because you're going to learn where your holes are, where, what they didn't learn, what happened, what was their holdups. Then you can circle back and, incorporate that into the course the next time around, which is definitely what I learned from Lindsay when I was doing my bot course. Is, really keying in on where's the holes, what was the questions, that question's not in the course. Oh my gosh, boom, got to get that question in. I've got to answer that question. It's a problem. So I know you have something called on-course social.
Yes.
Can you explain what that is? Because I think it's a real interesting tool that could be leveraged for people who are wanting to do what you just talked about, where if you don't have a large social following, but you want to starting those conversations in a way that's going to generate the right things. Talk to us about that real quick.
Yeah. So I created Encore Social because of this problem we're talking about. Lots of my students, maybe launched their beta, and maybe they had a few people, maybe they had 20 of people, right? But then they're like, okay, now I have to get ready for the big launch, right? Now I have to do the sales page, and like, I want it. And that is like a bigger investment of time and energy. And so I get this from Stu McLaren. He talks about like runways. The runway before your launch is really important. And Amy talks about it too. Amy Porterfield talks about, it's more important what you do like before the launch than like actually during the launch. So I started to like watch these people teach this and watch my students be like, okay, like now what, right? Because there's all these, instructions on how to run a launch, but then like, what do I do in between? Or what do I do leading up to it? And so I created basically a prompt tool. It's really cool. It's like dynamic, and it's using Google Sheets. And so you roll in, you say what day it is. You're like, I'm going to start on this day. When you buy it, the calendar is the calendar of the month you buy it. So you don't waste any of the months ahead of time, and it's all dynamic. And so you put in the day you start, and then you actually put in your launch date. So it's really built for course creators and people who sell programs, group programs, masterminds, all of that. You put in the launch date and you say how long you want the cart to be open. And so I give some suggestions for what you could be even posting on those days. And I definitely give you prompts. I want you posting like 3 times a day when you're in launch. I give you a whole bunch of like very straightforward, not like salesy, but like, I have a program, it's open right now. You probably want it, right? Here's a testimonial. Here's here's the reasons why I created it. Like those kind of prompts. So that's all the launch, but everything else fills in automatically. And you can select really cool things. Like you can say, I don't post on weekends. Like I just do Instagram stories and share about my amazing life. Or you can turn off holidays. Like US holidays is the ones we have in there right now. So if you're in a different country and that doesn't make sense, just turn them off. And so then they all filter in, and I created something called the ACEs method, which is very like jab, jab, right hook, like Gary Vee, which is there's an authority column, a connection column, an engage column, and a sizzle column. So authority is very like basically building your authority on the subject matter. And so there might be some drops of your course in there. And so you'll get a prompt that's like, the top question I get asked about the beta process or something like that, or the 3 reasons why, you should pre-sell your course. Those would be some very authority building, right? Look, I'm not selling Build a Better Beta, but I'm showing you I know what I'm talking about, right? Connection is actually connecting with your audience and sharing a lot of the background and behind the scenes. And so like, how did you start your business, or like those kind of prompts, like very like personal. And then engage is actually encouraging you to like have them drop like, tag your 3 best friends. Maybe I would tag someone like Kim and be like, oh my gosh, I was on Kim's show today. Like you're basically trying to engage mentors, people that you respect, colleagues, biz besties, whatever. You're trying to engage and create buzz around something. And so I have prompts for that. And then sizzle is like direct, like I'm selling something, or have you downloaded my freebie, or I'm trying to think what else would be a sizzle. That's like, and I call it sizzle because you are selling, but if you have an open close cart, maybe you're not selling for a month, but you want someone to be like, yeah, I would love to be on the wait list, right? So a wait list question, or prompt would come up. And so it's based on jab, jab, right hook. Like it goes ace, aces, ace, aces. And so what happens is every 10 days, there's at least you're trying to collect something from somebody, which I think is a lot more, a lot of course creators don't do that. They like get ready for the launch and then they're like, oh, I'm selling something. I'm about to sell something. Get excited. And it's like a week before the doors open and then it dies down again. And then they're posting whatever they want, which sometimes that works for people. But if you consistently remind people, this is the program I sell, this is the program I sell, these are the results it gets, you're setting yourself up for success for those launches. And even if you're evergreen, which would mean you just have courses maybe set up on your website, this system works really well too, because then in the sizzle, you could just like remember to talk about a new one of those products every day, or not every day, sorry, every sizzle that you get. So that what's cool about it is it all goes for you. It all like fills in for you. And then you can also change prompts.
It basically gives you a plan.
So that plan. Yes. It gives you the game plan.
So we all like plans because that's always a struggle. So you put in the date, and then it basically gives you a calendar of prompts that you would put out into the social space, and it's all built around the concept of the launch, which
the launch. Like having. Building your list, like having something to sell and remembering to talk about it. I don't think people talk about their courses that much. They, again, like I said, only talk about it when they're launching. Yep.
Yes. So if you build it out, like if you guys go to kimgarst.com I think it's On Course Social. We just had it. Yeah, there it is, On Course Social. You can find out a little bit more about this, but it's really a little clever. And I personally think that it's one of those things where nobody's thought of this before except Lindsay. So, boom.
Yeah, we tried. Well, there's a lot of prompts on the market, and they're great, but they tend not to work in the way that we have it set up. And it's totally
Yeah.
customizable. So if you have a prompt that you're like, Lindsay, I would never say that or whatever, you actually can go in and change it. And then when it reshuffles, your prompt will be in there. Like you could actually literally start adding your own stuff, your own quotes that like you say from your own stuff. That's when the magic happens, when you start really customizing it too. Yeah,
that is so awesome. Well, this is exciting. I am really thankful that you came on today and shared.
Me too.
Your knowledge.
I'm sorry I'm late. That was terrible. That was not planned.
I told some stories and I got everybody worked up. So we're all good. But do we have questions? I always like to, and don't forget, guys, if you didn't, I'm social experiment. Do a watch party. Can you see this? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm doing a social experiment. Everybody's talking about watch parties, and I'm incentivizing people to go. I'm going to draw. If you come back and put watch party, you start one, come back and drop in watch party in the comments. Picking somebody for that $100. Going to just give away that, and then we're also going to be drawing the winners here in just a moment. But what is the name of the learning management system you mentioned that is free and up to 50 users, Lindsay? Great question, Linus.
Great question. It's called Member Vault. That is the product that I use actually. So when you go to Kim's link, it probably takes you to the sales page. If you end up purchasing, it's hosted in Member Vault, but Member Vault is the product. It's really great. It's what's cool about it is like it gives you a marketplace and it shows you like who your hot like people are. So like people that have clicked on things multiple times, like that kind of thing. It creates like they call a binge and buy kind of process. But what I love about them is a very like freemium product where affiliate links, like checkout pages, payment plans, it takes PayPal, like lots of these other learning management systems, they paywall that stuff. They do like drip if you needed to. So it's really great because most people in a beta get under 50 people. And so you don't even have to pay. You can play around and click on stuff. And even in the beta process, I can just like create the product and you just need the checkout. The like getting people's money is actually a lot more difficult than you think. Like you can't just send a PayPal link. I mean, you can, it's like, even that's more complicated. So you have to have it, you have to have someone process the payment. And so that's the tool. It's pretty great. And you'll love the community too. It's a husband and wife developer team. So they're like just amazing in their Facebook group. So very helpful if you get stuck or you don't know how to do something, which is also really good.
Awesome. And so Desiree is saying, would the content buckets help with setting up the courses?
It's more for, when you think about the content buckets of like the ACEs and like, you know, it's more for just thinking about the way you're showing up online and like diversifying it, right? Like you're not always selling and you're not always asking people if they like Brussels sprouts.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but always weaving in what you're selling, because that's the biggest, that's the biggest piece that we don't do is, you know, people are afraid to sell these days. Like that's the reality of it. So, you know, one of the things that I've said for years is we should be sharing our freebies and our content routinely, not just randomly. You know, we need to be sharing all that stuff so that people aren't just bumping into it. You need to make sure that it's intentional. And that's, I think, the framework that Lindsay has provided in the on-course social is it's a combination of buckets, but it also has the very real aspect of the business component or your course component, so that you're you know, you're sharing that. You're not waiting for launch, you know, to share that stuff. So Sharon said, Kim, this was so helpful. Thank you. I am so glad you came and you got value from it. Always a pleasure. Yes. And so we have the ring light winner is Jean Voice Dart. Jean, I wonder, like, Voice Dart, is that like
that
part
is
of your
cool
business?
Name.
I know, right? I'm like, okay, I gotta pick her brain a little and find this out. And then the webcam cover is Linus Woods Mullins.
Oh, wow, good. She won something. Yay.
Yes, I love that. And then
Awesome.
one month free promo goes to Eugenia, Cassandra, and Jean again. Jean, you're just racked up, girl. Two things. So also for anybody who did watch party, how many watch parties did we get? Did we get any watch parties? This is, like I said, when we started, this is a social experiment for me. I'm trying to see, one, if people will do it, and two, if they actually work. I may have to do it for a couple of times just to see if they actually work, but we're going to give it a go.
Yeah. So are you testing to see how many watch it? Like how many watchers if it spikes?
I'm trying to see, rather than saying, hey, go S this.
Shit, yeah.
Try not to say the S word. Then would the watch parties be more effective? And then Gina saying, I won something for receiving. Yeah, I'm so excited you won. So again, I'm just trying to see if the whole watch party, I've heard a lot of great things about the watch parties for from an impact, giving more visibility to your lives. And so I was like, well, let's see if this works. So
I used them during a launch before within my Facebook group. And if you do it in a Facebook group, it's great because it shows up in all the people's notifications, which is nice.
Eva saying that was the most beautiful live I've watched. Woohoo! I'm so excited. That just made my day. How about you, Lindsay?
Me too.
That's awesome. And then we watch party winner. We have one. Gwen. Woohoo! All right. So those of you who are winners, please send us a DM, direct message, or an IM. I guess it's an IM in Facebook, and let us know a mailing address for physical products. And if Gwen, since you won the $100, if you can give me your PayPal email, I'll send it directly to you. So, and thank you guys for all of you guys for participating in the watch party. I'm anxious to see what impact that's going to bring.
Me too. I'm going to report back to your page, Kim. I need to see the results of this.
Yes, definitely. I'll have to check that out and see. Well, guys, thank you so much for being with us. Lindsay, thank you so much for giving all of your wonderful wisdom. Guys, if you guys want... man, that was a double, guys. But if you would like to find out more about the sponsor, promo.com, you can get a special deal at kimgirsch.com. Grab promo now. And that will give you a special, I think it's 30% off. So check that out. And if you don't know what promo.com is, we're going to close out and give a little video tutorial on what promo.com is all about. Thank you again, Lindsay. Thank you guys, each and every one of you, for being with us. Have a great rest of your day. God bless.
You need great marketing videos to grow your business. With Promo, you can create commercial-level videos in minutes. Hop over to any number of our ready-made collections. Customize your text, font, size, and color to fit your unique style. Just upload your logo and show off your brand. Even find the perfect music and use it forever with a lifetime license. Then download your video, fit for any device. Join hundreds of thousands of businesses winning with promo videos. Start creating your videos today.